Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for checking out this video here on Show Style and Spirit. I am Ebony, of course. And as you can see from the title of this video, I am recapping the very first episode of Love and Marriage Detroit. I am so excited about it. I watched it early this morning and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I am going to recap it. I thought it was a solid episode. I know that some of you, because you may not really see it for like Carlos King, so you may not decide to watch it, but I definitely encourage you to go ahead and give it a try because it's great for even conversation about relationships, male and female relationships, which I am going to give my thoughts on the men in these reality TV shows. I think it's more so coincidental that Carlos King is the producer of all of them, where we're seeing these tripped out men, and I am going to elaborate on that. So first, before I jump in, I do ask that you all please hit the like button on this video. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to Show Style and Spirit. So let's go ahead and jump right on in, y'all. So the episode opens up with this first couple. We have Christina and Brandon Smith. So Christina just turned 40. She looks amazing. And they have been married for 11 years. They have two beautiful daughters together. What's up, Linda Gamble? Thank you so much for being here. And Christina is a social media influencer. So, she has like her social media accounts, her IG, where she's showing, different looks or talking about different items that you could purchase for the soft life, things of that nature. It's basically like a sales position, but you're using your social media platform to sell. Meanwhile, Brandon, he's like an A&R executive, artist and repertoire, like artist development. And he owns his own like recording studio, Star Factory, and he founded it 17 years ago. And we're going to get more into that. And to me, they give more so Melody and Martell, not so much as individuals, but their relationship. And I have a lot more to say about their relationship dynamics. And we're going to get into that in just a few moments. But I wanted to give you like the core of who they are. The next couple that we have is Russell and Colby Harris. I feel like they're a sweet couple. And Russell is actually in the Army National Guard. So, Russell, we definitely thank you for your services. And Colby, like Christina, she too is a social media influencer. They have been married for 3 years. So, let me know in the chat, like 3 years, would you still call that couple a newlywed? Are you like a newlywed until you hit at least 5 years or 10 years? I see them as like newlyweds. They have an 18-month-old daughter, so cute. And what we're going to see, I'm going to talk about what we're going to see throughout the season, the trailer that they showed at the end. But, he was buff. They showed the scenes where he's like lifting her up. And she said, that he's her Clark Kent. She loves her Superman. So then we have Anthony and Latoya Thompson. So this couple, they've been married for 14 years. They have two children. They met at my alma mater, Michigan State. Go Green. And Anthony works for a company called Live Nation. He says that they do touring. I'm not sure what that means, if they promote tours or if he's like a tour manager and he goes on the road. He did not go into detail, but I'm assuming it's like he promotes tours. And Latoya is a physical therapist. She works in sports medicine. She seems definitely like my speed, like she seems very kind, approachable, articulate, educated, works. I love it. So I thought they were a great couple as well. So then after we're introduced to all of the couples, we actually see a group setting. They have a cookout where they all come together and they talk. And this is where I definitely want to get into my notes, okay? So then Anthony, he gives Marceau vibes, extremely traditional, to where he almost wants the woman to not have a voice and not be a decision maker in the household, allegedly, and in my opinion. So the question was brought up when Anthony said, us men, we're going to take a men's trip. And, Christina goes like, are you asking or are you telling? So then there was the whole conversation of, does a man ask or tell his wife when he's taking a trip or making a large purchase? Now, this has actually been a topic of conversation that I've had with guys, right? And a lot of them feel like if they come home and they buy a new vehicle, or even like my whole thing, like a new Apple MacBook, that can be like a few $1,000s. To me, that's a very large purchase. It's not like he went to Best Buy and bought some electronics and it came up to like a couple $100s. Like if you're making like large purchases, I think that should be discussed with the woman prior to. Because the stereotype is that women are always out shopping and women spend all of the money. But I know women who have told me about men going out purchasing brand new rims and the taxes were due, crazy stuff. But the stereotype is always on the woman that we are the big spenders. What's up, Cinnamon Swirl? Thank you all so much for being here. So I remember like my dad buying like one of those old school vans, the really big vans with the TV and VCR in it. We were on our way to Pittsburgh for a road trip. And I remember we were sitting in the van like, oh my gosh, like he totally threw us off, surprised us. And I remember mama saying, I didn't even know he was going to get this, and that stayed with me, especially once I became a woman. Like if you're going to make those sorts of purchases, I think it should be discussed with the woman. So that was actually brought up at this table. And I just thought that was a great conversation starter. That's what I love about the Love and Marriage franchise as a whole. It really shows you the real about these romantic heterosexual relationships. And again, I'm going to get into that in a moment. So Anthony actually said that his wife, Latoya, reads the word of God so she knows, how to talk to him and things like that. And this is what I want to say to you, ladies. Yeah, the Bible talks about a woman submitting to her husband, but he has to be worthy of your submission. You do not just submit to someone who is physically or verbally abusive or someone who tries to manipulate your mind or guilt you into not speaking up for yourself. You do not submit to a man who does not make enough money or have enough good credit to secure a mortgage and pay the mortgage on time every month, the utilities, insurance, all that. You do not submit to a man who's, just not worthy. He's just a loser, broke down, a cheater, an abuser. No, 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 no. You submit to a man who's worthy of it. And that is what type of time we need to all be on. I'm just supporting you. I won't support CK by looking at this show. I hear you, Cinnamon Swirl. I'm going to touch on that too. Good morning, Carla. Thank you so much for being here. What's up, my girl, Virgo Energy? Thank you so much for being here. But that is something that, you do see when you're out here dating, and a man, if they see that you're a spiritual woman, you may even flat out say, I'm a Christian woman, I go to church. They think they're going to use that Bible to try to beat you with the Bible. No, 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 don't fall for it, because he needs to have all his ducks in a row if he's going to be worthy of submission. So now that leads me to my next point. So I know that a lot of people say, they're not going to watch the Love and Marriage franchises, Love and Marriage Detroit, Love and Marriage DC, perhaps even Love and Marriage Huntsville, because of your disdain for Carlos King. And I know that he may have a rep for being a former producer of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta and the Real Housewife shows, New Jersey, Atlanta. Number one, for me, I am a fan of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I enjoy the show. I still watch it to this day. I don't see it as a negative. Yeah, you may see people physically take out their anger out on each other. That is a human response for some people who choose to respond that way. I'm not saying that is the correct response, but it is a realistic human response for some. As far as how we're depicted on TV, that's, people's choices, how they present themselves, in life. And then the cameras happen to be rolling. We're not all like that, right? We all say it all the time that Black people are not a monolith. Now, as far as Carlos King goes specifically, reality TV stars, they give us what they give in front of the camera. I don't think Carlos can tell these grown men like a Russell Harris that we see right in this front shot right here, the Army National Guard. I don't think Carlos King can tell him, and I need you to disrespect your wife on camera, bro. I don't think he can make anybody do that. I think that's who these men are in their hearts, and it's coming out in the physical. And Carlos is just capturing it. He could be like, I'm trying to help my Black women see that you all need to demand these men to treat you with more respect. Like, let's try and give it a different perspective. Carlos King could be trying to expose all the BS that's in these heterosexual relationships. Just my thought, just something to think about. But let me go down to the comments, y'all. Monica says, I refuse to watch anything Carlos has to do with. I've been. Where and how does Carlos King find all these trash men from Huntsville to Bell and now Detroit? Yuck. But I think it's the men themselves, because that is the commonality, right? It's the men. I just don't think he can tell a grown man to disrespect his wife on camera. I think it's got to be in that person. I still look at Love and Marriage Huntsville because I support Melody Rogers. I'm not here for Rep not being addressed by CK. I am definitely not watching Love and Marriage DC. I believe that Tyler Perry would not give these clowns the platform. You know what, Monica? I have to politely beg to differ. Because in Tyler Perry's movies, it's always like if the man is doing well or if he treats the woman right, he doesn't have the best job. He's struggling financially. So then Tyler Perry kind of puts that message out there that if a Black woman wants a good Black man, he can't be financially independent. You have to let that go, ladies. If you want the man to not put his hands on you, not cheat on you, and want to marry you, he's going to also be broke and it's going to be all on you. So then I feel like if it's a man presenting that, and that's fictional. So Carlos King does reality TV. Tyler Perry does fictional work. So that's his imagination writing. That's the portrayal that he puts out there to Black women, in my opinion. But Carlos King specializes in reality TV, where he is showing these real men and how they treat their wives. All right, so let's move on to the next scene. So then we see where Colby and Christina meet up. They have a play date. And Christina and Brandon, they have two little girls. Colby has the 18-month-old. And they get together and they talk. And Christina talks about how she just turned 40 and she felt a refreshing. And I have to say, like, the self-esteem like goes through the roof when you hit 40. There is this level of just not giving a F, especially like if you grew up in a home where your dad my dad was old school Alabama, some chauvinism there, absolutely, and controlling, and he paid the bills, and he felt like because he was the man, he was, on it. And like, I'm the baby, and my sisters told me that in the 70s when the Afro was popping, like they had to beg daddy to be able to wear Afros. My dad felt like only men should wear Afros. And when my sisters finally could, they said the Afro was almost going out of style, child. Like that was the type of household that I grew up in. So to me, in my opinion, once you hit 40, that whole like having to be a certain way and being controlled. And if you grew up in church too, then you have your church family trying to be possessive. All that seems to go away once you hit 40. You're like, I am a good person. I work hard. I pay a mortgage. Like I'm just not going to worry about pleasing anybody. So I could relate to Christina when she talked about that refreshing, and I absolutely loved it. And, Kobe was like such a cheerleader, such a supportive friend. And she said, yes, you are doing great. And Christina said, Brandon leaves early in the morning to go to his Star Factory recording studio and comes back late at night. And she said, I told him taking care of the kids has to be 50-50. And Colby in this scene was like, absolutely, you're absolutely right. So Colby seems really cool. I felt like she was a really affirming friend, and I really, really enjoyed that. So yes, let me go back to The comments here. I am doing well. Oh, she was talking back to Virgo. I watch Huntsville on other platforms, and I'm actually enjoying this season of Love and Marriage Huntsville. I am glad that you are enjoying it. Yes, that's my point, Monica. With movies, that's fictional, right? And he's writing a story where Tyler Perry basically says if you want a good man, like he's not going to be able to be as financially sufficient if you would like him to. Whereas Carlos King is showing men in real life how they treat their wives. So Carlos King, he's the producer, he's casting and they're filming and editing, but those men, that's how they choose to treat their women and on camera. You feel me, Virgo? 100%. I'm not going to say so much that CK does not like Black women. I think that he's presenting these couples and how they treat their wives because he can't make a grown man, go there. That's like in them. All right. So, Christina, let me go ahead and move right along. So, we have Brandon in his recording studio, Star Factory, with his new artist, Nija. The song sounded pretty good, I have to say. And he was giving her feedback, like, he either said it was the hook or the bridge or the verse. He was like, that's everything. I need you to make it sound more singy and less rappy. And then we actually have where Christina calls in, and it is a FaceTime call. And he instantly gets annoyed. He gets annoyed because he feels like she's interrupting. Well, number one, you chose to answer. And I'm sure as a man, he would say, well, if I didn't answer, she would be texting me all night or have an attitude when I come home. But she said earlier that he leaves early in the morning, comes home at night, which in my opinion gives roommate or y'all are cohabitating, splitting the bills. Like it might be cheaper for you to have a roommate. You know what I'm saying? They live in a penthouse in downtown Detroit. That's definitely not cheap. Before I bought this house, I was thinking, because back then I used to work in downtown Detroit, and I was thinking about getting a condo down there. Oh my gosh, the HOA fees for a condo in downtown Detroit sometimes the HOA fees are higher than the mortgage. It was bananas. So I was like, no, I'm good. So just move to the suburbs, but anyway, I feel like, I don't know if they're together for appearance sakes or if it's just cheaper, but they just seem more fractured to me. And I hate to speak negative over anyone, but that's just what they're giving so far. But it's also just episode 1. So maybe they will totally change my opinion. And Christina seems like such a sweet girl. They actually got married just under 6 months of dating, and they met on Twitter. And she moved to Detroit 4 days before their wedding. And listen, y'all, I stood up in a wedding and where they got engaged after 4 months of dating. They got married 6 months later. And it did feel extremely rushed. And a month later, after getting married, they were separated. 5 months later, the baby arrived. My mom died, and my friend left him. That December, it was a very eventful month. But like looking back, I would say the number one thing is like all just everything was rushed. But this couple, they're still together 11 years later after moving super duper fast. So we'll just have to see. Virgo says, I can't stand CK, but in all fairness, he can only portray these men as they show up in their world and their relationships. 100% Virgo. The issue is them knowing that they are trash and agreeing to do reality TV. You're absolutely right, Virgo. And cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. And I think that's why people would choose to do reality TV. And also, for the fame. And Carla agrees with you, Virgo. So y'all, with this artist, she's a secret. And I'm going to get to that. Let me take my time. Let me get to it. We're going to circle back around to that for sure. So then we have Anthony and LaToya. They're meeting kind of like at a field house where Anthony is like training their son. He's the third Anthony, so they call him Trey. My nephew is the third Clifton. We call him Trey. And I have a cousin down in Atlanta. He's the third Frederick. We call him Trey. But anyway, So in this scene, they're talking about how, Latoya has a wine called Opulence. And she was saying, we have to go back to Napa and work with our team there. And he's like, oh, yeah, we have lots of traveling to do. We also have to go to Atlanta because his company that he works for, Live Nation, or his production company that he owns, they do work with Disney and Marvel, he said. As soon as Anthony mentioned Atlanta, Latoya's energy shifted. You could see it come through physically, where she's like instantly annoyed. And so she was saying that the last time Anthony had the nerve to take his tail down to Atlanta was in 2020 when she was working in the hospital during Carnival 19. She said, our kids were doing virtual learning and I was doing it all on my own. So he literally turned his wife into a single parent. And I'm guessing she doesn't like him going to Atlanta because either he stays there too long or he acts like he's single or both. And Atlanta does seem to be like that little mecca where like married men can pretend that they're single. I don't know. But that just seems to be the overall lesson here. And he's totally giving Marceau. And again, we're going to talk about the trailer that we saw at the end of the episode, and you'll know why I say that. So Anthony, in this conversation where Latoya says, you just casually telling me that you're going to Atlanta, we have to discuss these things. He's like, well, it would have been cool back in the day. He let those words fall out of his mouth. And Latoya says, no, 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 no. We're not in back in the day. It's 2023, darling. And I love that because Latoya is smart. She speaks her mind. I can tell she respects her husband, but I'm glad that she stands up for herself. There is no back in the day, Anthony. So what? Why would you want to live in the past where you weren't even born yet and where women did not have a voice? You'd have to be a very insecure man to want there to be times where a woman doesn't have her own voice and you just tell her what you're going to do and what she is going to do. Let me go back to the comments. Virgo says, I don't like the husband, but Christina also seems like a lot to deal with. She is damaged and the marriage is obviously fractured. He is irritated and she is angry and it shows up in their interactions. 100%. Anthony, I cannot stand it all. Yes, he's very chauvinistic. Colby called it out. All right. And he went to Atlanta, leaving his doctor wife alone at home with 3 kids during the pandemic when doctors were being taxed beyond all human expectations. I cannot stand him and his dumb man movement. 100%, girl. I think that's an insecurity for you to have to be chauvinistic. It's just like for you to be racist, that's an insecurity as well. That can get so deep, it can get a lot deeper. So then we see where Brandon is surprising Christina. He takes her to a lavender farm. He remembered that Christina said she always wanted to visit a lavender farm because she loves it. Like I said, they've been married for 11 years, and at the time of the filming, they're at their 11th year anniversary. Brandon says in his confessional that he was surprised that they even made it to 11 years because there was a time he didn't think they'd make it to 5 years. Who would say that? That is not your normal average conversation. I've been around married people. My siblings and my parents were married. I have never heard a married person say that we never thought we'd make it to 5 years and we made it to 11. Even more weird was Christina's confessional about him blindfolding her. She said, I don't know what's going on. I'm blindfolded and I don't know if this man is going to push me off a bridge. That ain't normal conversation either. And if I was like her sister, her friend, her cousin, I'd be like, WTF? Like making a mental note. Like that's just not normal conversation. But anyway, once he takes the blindfold off, she sees the rest of the cast. They're all there too. And the conversation ain't your average conversation during an anniversary dinner. Let me go back to my notes because I do not want to miss a thing. So Brandon actually goes to the club a lot, according to him. They discussed this at the anniversary dinner right here because Brandon works in the music industry and he says that that's how he networks and, meets new artists. But he says that he has to because he's in the music industry. Christina let it be known that she does not like it, that her man goes to the club all the time. I hear you, Christina. My brother, I started to post his picture in the slides and I took it down. My brother owned a club in Detroit called the Comfort Zone Jazz Club. And he passed away when the blood clot traveled up to his lung. But he was a handsome man. I may still grab the picture and post it for y'all. But him working in the club, there was always females. And he had a girlfriend and she lived with him. And then he was seeing another woman and she moved out and the other one moved in. And when he passed away, there was various women at the funeral home and at the church for the service. It's just a mess. So I would not want a man who has to be in the club all the time either. But also, Brandon, I want to challenge you to know that you definitely don't have to be at the club all the time to meet new artists. Just ask Chloe and Halle Bailey. Just ask Ella May. Popular singers whom I enjoy their music, they were posting their music on social media. Right now, you can go on YouTube and find Chloe and Halle's videos from when they were like, what, 10, 12, 13 years old, doing all those Beyonce covers. They're still up. That is how Beyonce's team at Parkwood found Chloe and Halle. Ella May, she was discovered on IG. Gone are the days, honey, where it's like Mariah Carey. She got a demo on a cassette tape going to all these different industry parties. Can you listen to my tape and trying to get a record deal? No, no, no. You can sing. You make a video of yourself singing. You post it on social media. Boom, you can get you a record deal. It may be a matter of someone discovering your video, but my point is that the nightclub ain't the only source for finding your next big artist, Brandon. So I think that that's all cap because you might just want to be in there with those females, allegedly and in my opinion. Virgo says, yeah, pushing that off a cliff comment was crazy to me. Me too. You just wouldn't say that, right? Weirdest anniversary convo in history. Plus, the women aren't really friends, so why celebrate your anniversary with near perfect strangers? So inorganic and stupid. They don't have real friends. I guess it was definitely to film a scene, but I have to give it to Love and Marriage Detroit though. The conversations in the scenes and the group scenes, amazing about relationships. So let's continue. So Anthony had the nerve to call Christina insecure for not liking her husband to be in the club scene all the time. Anthony, number one, Christina is not your wife and you are not the know-all be-all. And nobody will want their partner. You wouldn't want Dr. Latoya in the club every night wearing some halter tops and some booty shaking shorts because you know the guy's gonna be all up on your wife. So stop it. You wouldn't want your woman in the club all the time, so it's okay for a woman to not want her man in the club all the time. Anthony is a trip, y'all. Brandon, so sorry. Anthony tries to gaslight Christina with that by calling her insecure, and she used her words to defend herself against Anthony. Christina actually says, "You don't know the history." And he was like, "Well, what history?" The history, those two words were the game changer. We learned that Brandon actually had an emotional affair on Christina. According to Christina, it was emotional. Now, before you say it was physical too, that was a thought that entered my mind. To have an emotional affair is still huge because I know for me, I have to bond with the person for me to want to sleep with them. And once I do have that emotional connection, once I find him intelligent, articulate, oh, he's making me laugh, oh, he's working and he's self-sufficient and independent, and then we connect on like personal beliefs, whether it's spiritual beliefs or personal goals, you know, now like I'm feeling like, okay, I like this person. Then I'm going to want them, you know, in the bedroom sexually. So the emotional affair, that's definitely like a no. Let me know what y'all think about that as well. All right. And so Virgo says Beyonce watched Les Twins on World of Dance and they have been with her and Jay-Z ever since. That's right. She wasn't all up in the club twerking, trying to meet new talent, Virgo. I was waiting on a review because I will not support CK. Okay, I hear y'all. Well, definitely the conversations in episode one, fantastic. All right, so then we have the game of telephone that is also revealed in this scene, y'all. So let me just read my notes because it's a lot of who told who and who told what. So Brandon told Russell about his new female artist that he is developing. Russell told his wife, Kobe. Remember, Russell is the chocolate brother with the muscles, the Army National Guard. Kobe is the other social media influencer. Kobe brings up Brandon's new female artist at the anniversary dinner, assuming that Christina knew. Christina did not. She gets instantly emotional. And Brandon is trying to say, come on, let's do a one on one. Let's do a one on one. And she really didn't want to go off to the side and talk. So that lets me know that Brandon definitely is into appearances and image. He wants on the outside everything to look hunky dory, flowers. And, Christina, once she gets emotional, she was ready to talk about it in front of everyone right then and there. And she said, you signed a contract and didn't discuss it with me. Now I'm gonna say this, Christina. I didn't see what would the big deal be about him signing a contract and not letting you know. And then he even said, you sign brand deals all the time. And she's like, well, a brand deal is different than a music contract. Well, of course. Of course, we know it's a different industry, but it's business, right? I feel like she was speaking in code when she said you signed a new contract and didn't tell me. It was really you're working with another female and you didn't tell me. So I guess she didn't want to say that outright because Anthony had already called her insecure. But it is what it is. Now, what we saw in the trailer was Marceau bringing his tail up to Detroit to speak at Anthony's men's movement, which really is just a club where men can come together and bitch. And he's going to say, you have to be the man. And it's just going to be so annoying. But that's going to be, Marceau and Anthony are going to be like soulmates. We can already see. Kobe and Christina, they're going to fall out over a social media collaboration. And I guess Kobe attached herself to an already existing collaboration between Christina and a company. And so they're going to fall out over that. I think that's understandable. Like, excuse me, I was a part of this collaboration first, but that's also just what I saw from the trailer. So I'll definitely have to see more. Also from the trailer, Russell tells Kobe that he enrolled in divinity school. Kobe was like, how come I didn't know that you were enrolling in divinity school? I don't want to be anyone's first lady. We all know that can be a trip, y'all, because like for the first family, they live under a microscope in church. I know a young lady who grew up as a pastor kid, and she told me like people always want to know what grades you got in school. I never asked any PKs, what are your grades? I mean, why would I care? But people do. And like, I'm not a PK and just going to church, people are judgmental. I feel like it's 10 times worse for the first family. They can never, have an attitude or not feel like talking with people. They can never have a cold without folks having something to say. So I totally get why Kobe just ain't feeling wanting to be a first lady. At the same time, if Russell feels spiritually called, I mean, I guess all she can do is pray to God and ask her to help her hold her peace when she want to curse somebody out, because I think that's going to be a wild ride. All right, and Miss B says an emotional affair can be deeper than a physical affair. Absolutely, Miss B. I totally agree with you. Now, what I also want to do is I just want to touch on some things about Detroit because like Carlos said in his intro, Detroit often gets a bad name for just like crime that's in the inner city. And we saw where like Anthony is going to say in his confessional in future episodes, crime is in any urban city, not just in Detroit. And I know that people, when they think of Detroit, if they're not thinking of crime, they may also think about, Motown music, it was such an incredible time. That's wonderful. The Temptations, the Supremes, a time that will never repeat itself, right? But this is Hitsville, USA. It is now the Motown Museum. It's right in Detroit. and it's right in the hood. But yes, you can definitely go. You can check out the recording studio where all those famous artists recorded their music: Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, the Jackson Five. I think that it's amazing, and it's right here in the city. Allegedly, Berry Gordy, when he founded Motown Music, he actually ran it the way he ran, or the way he worked at Ford Motor Company at one of the auto plants. My dad retired from Ford Motors, working on the assembly line, helping to build the cars. A lot of Black men, they even moved from the South to the North to get those jobs, and they were able to provide well for their kids. A lot of us went to college, and our dads worked at those auto plants. My friend whose wedding I told y'all about that I stood up in, her dad retired from GM. They're from Mississippi. So that is the story for a lot of us Black families here in Detroit. And so you have the auto industry here. But then also you have the gospel music. You know, of course, Carlos King produced his spinoff Grown in Gospel for WeTV. You have the Clark sisters, Fred Hammond, the gospel group Commission. They are all from Detroit. The singer Aaliyah, rest in peace, she grew up in Detroit. Her middle school was not too far from here where I live. And also, of course, Anita Baker is from Detroit. She lives, I believe, her home is in St. Clair Shores. Aretha Franklin lived in the suburbs of Detroit. Even my high school, Cass Tech, Diana Ross from Diana Ross and the Supremes graduated from my high school, as well as Kenya Moore from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, I also want to tell y'all about Rocket Mortgage, the bottom left corner. It's also known as Quicken Loans, or formerly known as Quicken Loans. So Quicken Loans is the #1 online mortgage lender in the country. And it's an amazing company. It will change your life. So I used to be a loan officer. It made me a landlord. So I have a property that I rent out, and I have this home. And so you just have to commit a lot to getting that new business, talking to new people, getting them pre-approved, walking them through the home buying process. That's all in downtown Detroit. Huge company. And its founder, Dan Gilbert, he graduated from my alma mater, and Anthony and Latoya Thompson from the show, Michigan State University, go green. The state of Michigan has a couple of amazing schools. Michigan State and that other school, U of M, its rival, are Big Ten universities. Sasha Obama actually did her freshman year at the University of Michigan. And some amazing people have come out of those schools. So there are some positive things that are happening in Detroit and throughout the state. And I just wanted to point those out. Now, if anybody wants to come up and talk about your thoughts on the first episode for Love and Marriage Detroit, please feel free to do so. I will be coming back, so I won't stay on too long. I'm going to probably work out before I come back for Love and Marriage Huntsville. But if anybody wants to give their thoughts on these couples, what we've seen so far in this first episode, I thought it was a solid episode. I thought it was great. Better than I was expecting. I enjoyed it a lot, which made me go live. I did not just want to do a video, just in case anyone wanted to sound off as well. Yes, so I will wait a few moments, and definitely please hit the like button on this video. It will cause YouTube to recommend this video to more people of similar interest. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to Show Style and Spirit. So I will go ahead and wait a few more moments. If y'all don't feel like talking, I totally get it. We're going to come back in 2.5 hours to recap Love and Marriage Huntsville. All right. Well, I guess we are good there. I hope you enjoyed this recap. I actually enjoyed talking about it because, again, the conversations were so good. I think that these reality TV shows that focus on these marriages, I think it's really giving us women something to think about as far as how these men really see us. It seems to be they see us low on the value end of things. And definitely don't ever lose your voice if you're going to marry these men, especially men like Anthony. All right. So I will see y'all in just a couple of hours. Thank you so much for kicking it with me. And definitely check out the episode Love and Marriage Detroit. It was pretty good. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.